It's 12:30. Good afternoon and welcome to OJ News. As a noted political historian, Paul Strangio is wary of oversimplified comparisons to the past. But as he surveys the diabolical challenges facing Anthony Albanese at the start of his prime ministership, he sees unmistakable parallels to Gough Whitlam and the tumultuous 1970s. In both cases, you see a Labour government coming into power with the spectre of escalating energy prices and the risk of stagflation, says the Monash University politics professor. Recalling the spirit of the times 5 decades ago, Strangio says, when Whitlam came to power, Australia had gone through the 1950s and the 60s with a sense of confidence and even complacency. Themes Donald Horne famously explored in his book The Lucky Country. There was a sense that prosperity would continue uninterrupted. Then came the oil price shock triggered by an embargo by Arab members of the Organization of Petroleum exporting countries. The price of oil quadrupled and the confounding new phenomenon of stagflation emerged. In Australia, inflation jumped from 6.5% in 1972 to 15.3% in 1975. Unemployment doubled from 2.6 to 4.9%. What was going on was not supposed to happen. You are not supposed to have rising unemployment and inflation at the same time, Strangio says. Yet that's exactly what happened, and it transformed the way Australians thought about themselves and their political leaders. There was a sense of confusion, a degree of chaos, a loss of faith in the governing class. Strangio says, we came out of it a much more chastened, less confident society. The sense of drift was mirrored in Britain and the United States. In a famous televised address in 1979, President Jimmy Carter said Americans faced not just an energy crisis, but a crisis of confidence. It is a crisis that strikes at the very heart and soul and spirit of our national will, Carter said. We can see this crisis in the growing doubt about the meaning of our own lives and in the loss of a unity of purpose for our nation. The economic tumult of the 70s ushered in a neoliberal era of small government as Britain and the US turned to Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan respectively to repair their national economies. Neoliberalism arrived somewhat later in Australia and in a moderated form with the election of the Hawke government in 1993. The economic and energy challenges faced by Australians this winter are not yet as catastrophic as those of the 1970s. It's too soon to know whether they will transform society in the long term. However, after the past week, the immensity of those challenges is undeniable. The era of COVID-19 lockdowns and border closures may be over, but the nation faces another winter of discontent as consumer prices soar, interest rates rise, and the energy market struggles to meet demand. In the words of Treasurer Jim Chalmers, the country faces a perfect storm of simultaneous spikes in gas prices, electricity prices, and petrol prices. In a grim statement 2 weeks ago, the Australian Industry Group Chief Executive Ines Willox warned apocalyptic rises in energy prices threaten chaos for industry and pain for households. Explaining the factors behind the crisis, Willox said, the immediate pressures are from outages at old coal plants, consequent high gas demand for power, and the collapse of a mid-sized gas retailer. But beyond these acute pressures lies the pull of international coal and gas prices, which are unprecedentedly high in the wake of the invasion of Ukraine. And the upshot? Households will feel the punch from higher default electricity prices from July, and more pain is coming for all. Willock's statement was as prophetic as it was alarming. On Wednesday, the Australian energy market operator took unprecedented market intervention by suspending trading across the entire East Coast electricity power network. Speaking at an emergency press conference that night, New South Wales Treasurer and Energy Minister Matt Keane pleaded with his state's residents to minimise their use of non-critical electricity in the peak of evening hours. This is a result of a number of our coal-fired power stations not working when we need them to, he said. The number of generators that were expected to be working tonight have not come on. It shows exactly why we need a plan to modernize our electricity system. But in the meantime, we need to make sure that our coal-fired power stations are working when we need them to. In Victoria, the Andrews government insisted that the state had sufficient energy supply but warned Victorians they faced a potential gas shortage next winter. Anyone doubting we live in dramatic times needed only to tune into the ABC on Tuesday night. Lee Sales, soon to depart the presenter's chair, was not indulging in hyperbole when she told viewers she had secured a rare interview with Reserve Bank of Australia Governor Philip Lowe. It was the first time since 2010, when Lowe's predecessor Glenn Stevens sat down with Sunrise host David Koch, that an RBA governor had sat down for a TV interview. The sit-down came a week after the RBA raised the official cash rate to 85%, its highest level since September 2019. Lowe had previously issued guidance that he did not expect rates to rise until 2024, an error he has since conceded was embarrassing.